Hi, everybody. Sorry for the confusion. We were getting this together fairly quickly, so I thought we had the retro intro, but
I broke it.
somebody has gone in here and they have removed the retro intro, which, bummer. But anyway, we didn't want to delay any further, so we hope you guys are doing well tonight and that everything's going well for you all. Sal, you're here.
I'm here. I'm not an AI procedurally generated voice.
Now, Sal came down for just a vacation for a little R&R, and we've been going through what would I call it? My special hell, the storage room. I didn't bring him down here to work, but he decided that he wanted to help out in the studio. So we were...
Because that's what the heroes do.
That's right. So we were going through that, and let's see, we made, 2 trips to Second Chance Toys?
Yep, we did.
Okay, so we've made 2 trips to Second Chance Toys. I feel like we're forgetting some of the other stuff we've done this week.
Well, we had a range day.
That's right. We went. That's what I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
So we went to the range. First of all, Matt Movie 611. If I can pull up your super chat, which has disappeared into the ether, but let me. Here it is. He says, 2 of my favorite people together. Hope you guys had fun at the con. Thank you. We will get into that momentarily.
We'll save it for the last 10 minutes. So make sure you're still here.
Yeah. So we spent like the first day just kind of relaxing, and then on Friday we went to the range.
Yep.
And that was, I guess, in a way to just make everybody else at the range feel inferior.
Correct. Lots of jealous eyes on, what was it, lane 10, I think we were on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we showed up to impress.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
we had Scott Hughes in tow, who...
That's right.
He was not going to let us look like fools out there.
Yes. If you ever go to the range, you've got to have Scott Hughes with you. Anyway, so as you would imagine, we were musing to ourselves about the fact that there's remember the scene in Mary Poppins where she's got the carpet bag that it's bottomless.
Right.
So these guys were standing in these other lanes at the range, and Sal had said the reason he wanted to go to the range was because he knew that, I'm paraphrasing, you didn't say it this way, but he was like, I don't know a lot about the old stuff, and I know you've got the old stuff. And he didn't mean it in any derogatory way whatsoever. So I was like, yeah. Well, people love to, whether it's toys or in this case, range equipment.
Right.
That's right, YouTube bots. You can't get me for it. Whether it's that, they love to be dismissive about old stuff until it's actually in their presence, and then all of a sudden they're meerkatting out of their own range. Range. What do they call those, walls or whatever? Barricades. Lanes. Thank you. Couldn't find my word. Right. Should have been thinking about bowling, but they lean out because they're like, what? Because there's all this unique stuff coming out of our Mary Poppins carpet bag of fun. So take it away.
Or the Scott Hughes bang bag, as I'll refer to it.
Yes, and in this case, Scott was on hand while I was sort of bringing my stuff out. Like, in other words, most Scott and I both brought the stuff. It was like 50-50.
Right.
But the first thing that came out was the M1 Garand.
M1 Garand.
Yes.
And it was a Garand time.
You hear that? That's Melinda's laptop buzzing.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I'd never find, like, we have the M1 Garands that we have on station are, I don't want to say fake, but they're for honor guard, like color guard, for funerals, things like that. So they function, but I think they're like out of commission in terms of live rounds. And I was like, watching things like Band of Brothers, World War II videos, I wanted the experience, and Michael was gracious enough to allow me that experience. And we were under the impression that it was not sighted or there was something wrong with it. Yours truly was shooting keyholes the whole time.
Right.
So yourself, Scott and Scott has a shoulder injury he's recovering from, so keep that in mind. All three of us had a fairly fist-sized grouping on that paper, so mystery solved.
Mystery solved. Now just needs to dial in,
right.
I guess. And first of all, George, I hope you're doing okay. I just saw this chat from you. I really hope you're doing all right, man. But we think of you always, and we hope you're gonna make a quick recovery. But yeah, so the M1 Garand came out. It doesn't come out very often, not because I'm particular about it, just because I thought it was broken. Meaning not broken, functional, but not effective.
Like me.
And under the expertise of Sal's shooting ability and Scott's shooting ability and Scott's knowledge, they determined there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's a 1943 Winchester make, so I'm very proud of it. I found it myself. It's not an heirloom. It was something I searched for many years. I wanted a Winchester made because that Winchester only made them in World War II. So you're getting a World War II one.
And your rifle killed 50 men.
50 men. And then we brought out, let's see, the HK USP match pistols.
Yep, we did. That was a very smooth platform.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know what those are, the H&K USPs are the USP matches are the guns that, and I accidentally said the G word. They are the equipment that is carried by Lara Croft in the Angelina Jolie films. Her friends on her hips.
Yep.
So that's those. And then that was amazing because there's going to be a video about those icons, those hand cannons, as we might call them.
Yes.
That
they are rather large.
Yes, there will be a video about those coming soon, and all the work that Scott Hughes put into those. It's really amazing, a really amazing story, and a really amazing thing that Scott was able to pull off. And let's see. I'm getting super chats here all of a sudden. Jeremy Jernigan is here, and he says, "Good to see you, Sal. Nice monkey, Michael." Thank you. Take a lot of pride in my monkey.
Indeed. We were looking for a little tube of lipstick to give him, but so if you know, you know.
And Killamagwai, thank you for the super chat. He says, "The dynamic duo. Good to see you guys. Good to see you too."
And I'm here too. I think he's talking about you and the monkey.
Oh, no. And then Jeff McElwee is here, some of my favorite folks, and a $5 for more. Thank you for the kind super chat, Jeff. It's good to see you here too.
Thank you, Jeff.
So at that point, World Made of Cardboard. Yes. That is the Inspector Gadget transforming vehicle behind me. Yeah, the car. Yep.
That's we've taken a new approach. This is the new filming location.
Right. This is the new filming location for the moment. As right over here, right as my hand goes out of camera, it is still a work in progress. And over there, it's even worse. Brian Dillingham sends the Dillinghamism.
Now it's a party.
Now it very much is. Good to see you, Brian. So then after that, Scott brought out the VP9.
Right.
And that was an amazing.
Yeah, it's that sight he has, which the blind man could bullseye with that thing.
It reminded me of the reticle in Last Starfighter in the Gunstar, where it's like, where to go? And it's like, once you have your eye in the right place, it appears.
Right.
It was amazing. It was really cool. And that was cool. And then he had some two revolvers.
He had the one. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
It was a wheel G for sure.
Yeah.
It was like a pocket knife, like folded up.
Yep.
And then unfold it, but you had to hold on to it because it was like holding a firecracker in your hand.
Yes.
Because it wanted to just leap straight up into the air. There's no aiming with that.
It was like trying to catch a cricket. Like,
right.
You know.
It was a noisy cricket.
And then Impossible Pie, just to answer your question without bringing it up on the screen because I don't know what the YouTube bots will do. I would probably say that for me, I always went I always went after what I thought were the coolest. So the M1 Garand, the HK USP matches, some others that I'm about to mention. There are some that I would love to experience, like the Webley Mark 6, but that's going to be a while because, you know, the ammo's rare, the gun is rare.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the coolest one I've ever fired was the M9 Beretta. That's a joke for people who know what that gun is. It's a joke. Honestly, the M1 Garand was probably the coolest one I've fired.
Yeah,
like it was an experience. Like it's you shoot a 240 or a 50 or whatever, and it's like those are the cool guns,
right?
Or things,
right?
And I guess when you work around them and you see them, it loses its luster. So the M1 Garand, I've only seen the one time. So I thought it was really cool. Something I don't watch a lot of modern, almost said horror movies, a lot of war movies that are modern. I mean, we watched Sisu today, and that was a hoot. So it's like I like the weapons that are no longer in service. Those are cool to me.
Yeah, it really comes home when. At first you're like, how's this even going to work out? You know, because you're unfamiliar with it. And I was having to like get back on the bicycle as well. But then once you hear that ping as the clip comes flying out, it all comes home, you know? Yeah. That was
the first time that, like, because I'm so used to not hearing that. I fired my last round and I heard ting. it was.
You suddenly felt like one of the easy company guys.
Like, turkey's done. It was great.
That was the fun thing about it was, even though there are people that always bring loud ordnance to the range, they always know when something different is going on at the far end. And you should have seen these guys. They were like popping out from behind their lanes to just try and get a glimpse of what was going on. And that wasn't just like the M1 was the showstopper audibly.
Right.
But that was when they started wondering what we kept going back to the bags for. And, you know, when they turned around and saw us carrying USP match, you know.
What it was, for those who haven't had their daily dose of really crappy teen movies, it's like the scene in all those movies where the prom's happening, and all the guys are showing up with their like hot chicks throughout the movie. We showed up with the girl that had the glasses and the ponytail, and then they took their ponytail down and their glasses off. Oh my god, she's hot,
she's all that.
That's what it was. We showed up with that. And so they're like, man, like we had a dude bro in lane 8 who I don't know what his loadout was, but that was not typical 5.56. That was way too loud for that. We had the fancy earmuffs that you have the microphones in you, and I was like, I can hear that still. Like that's a higher capacity or something. I'm sure Scott Hughes could tell us like the loadout for the gunpowder and everything in it, or the grains and all. But even that guy had to like stop and appreciate, and he was making all sorts of noise. And from what I could hear, it sounded like he was being reckless, honestly. But, yeah, it was nice to make one of those dude bros like, kind of stop and look.
I got to be honest, Darth Elusive, the carbine has never, like, I respect it for what it did in World War II, but I've always thought the carbine just looked kind of rinky dink. It just looks like a little pop gun. It doesn't. I don't even think it shoots 30-06. I can't remember I don't even know. I haven't done enough. I haven't been interested in the carbine to the point that the carbine that I haven't even looked into its stats. But yeah, so after that we capped everything off, no pun intended, with the Raiders of the Lost Ark revolver, essentially.
Talk about being humbled. Like I was other than Scott's little get away from me thing, which he had a snub nose 38, I want to say, which was fun. But that wheel system, humbling. I was pretty nice groupings, and this one I was like, it always takes. I hadn't fired it in a while, and it takes a bit of relearning. You have to. It's almost like with the M1917 Smith & Wesson 45 ACP, the tail wags the dog. Sorry for the RC burp. The tail wags the dog on that one, and you've got to kind of learn it rather than it submit to you. Well, that was what, a 6-round wheel, I think.
Yes,
And
sixth round. Yep.
It took me 5 rounds to get to the target that I wanted because we had that sheet that was battleships, and I was like, I've given up aiming at the boats. I've given up. It's not happening. And so I was like, there's one dead center. I'm like, I'm gonna go for that one. Then I was like, pung pung. I was walking it, and I went too far and had to go back. And I finally got on the fifth one. I was like, okay, there, stay here. And then I was like, okay, I've been embarrassed enough. Your turn.
It was a fun day at the range, and then we came back, and then the next day it was, shuttling things to Second Chance Toys, cleaning out the storage room. I feel like we're missing. Oh wait, we have a super chat here from Logic Blaster. Thank you so much for the kind super chat. He says, "Great to see you, Sal. Your 2 Cents Toys YouTube channel inspired me to create my own channel."
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Hopefully it inspires you to continue and not give up like I
did. He hasn't given up. He's just decided he wants to do Ancient Mysteries on RetroBlasting instead.
Correct.
Yeah, so I can't remember what we did besides the shuttling. That sounds. Oh, we went to Semper Fi for lunch,
which delicious.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
Yeah, and what else did we do those days leading up to DragonCon?
Well, we did a lot in the storage room one day.
Right. Did a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of good talk.
Right.
A lot of good talk.
Yeah, which I like I told Michael and Linda when I got here, I was like, we had no plan for being here, like nothing. We're gonna do this. It was like, I don't care what we do, as long as we're doing it together. I'm just here to be here.
Right.
Like, it's not like, oh, I'm like I'd let slip to a couple friends of mine up north. I was going to DragonCon for a day, and they kept saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to vacation to go to DragonCon." I was like, "No, that's a happy accident. Like, that wasn't planned. That was just, oh, by the way," and we'll get to that, but we'll make you wait. There was one day. What day did we go to Salt Lounge?
Oh yeah, we went to a restaurant here near us called Salt, and great time just hanging out and having dinner. It was Melinda, Sal, and myself, and that was a nice night. Melinda and I got to people watch, and I got to judge very loudly. It's one of my favorite pastimes. If anyone ever finds me in public and I'm by myself, rest assured I'm looking at everybody and judging them harshly so I can feel better about myself. But I like to make up the stories in my head about what the people are doing. Right. And before you get the wrong impression here, when Sal scheduled coming down, Melinda and I were just glad that we were going to get to see Sal. We didn't realize that the timing was going to dovetail. We had no plans this year to go to DragonCon. We haven't been to DragonCon since 2019 in person. We haven't really done anything with DragonCon since the 2020 virtual convention. So we were just kind of thinking up things, and we said, "What's going on that weekend?" And Melinda said, "Well, it's Labor Day weekend." And I went, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." And so that's when I contacted Sal back, and I said, "Hey, just letting you know, DragonCon is that weekend. I don't know if you've ever been to a convention that big, but if you want to go for like a day or more, we can." And you said, "Yeah, let's go for a day." So we sat back on Wednesday when he got here, and my friend Kyle had shown up. Kyle goes to DragonCon every year, and Kyle traditionally stays with us on Wednesday night before he drives to his hotel on Thursday, and then stays throughout the convention. So Kyle was here as well for that night, and he said, "Well, Saturday passes are already sold out."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh," and he said, "And the guest list is crazy." He said, "Because all these people signed up at the last minute, probably because of the strike."
Right.
They had the trio of Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, and Andy Serkis.
Right.
You are a huge Lord of the Rings guy.
Big time.
Yeah. So we thought, well, how are we going to coordinate this to maximize the potential? Because it's never a guarantee that Sal will be able to get all 3 autographs.
Right.
That day was Sunday.
Right.
Yep.
And just coincidentally, like the Elijah and Sean Astin were there Saturday, Sunday, and Andy Serkis was only there on Sunday.
Yep.
And we were like, well, serendipitously, Saturday was sold out anyway, which was the original plan day. They're like, well, we'll go Sunday. So that was an odyssey.
Yeah. It was. Frankly, I was just glad that it worked out that way, because it could have been one of those really annoying things where maybe Elijah Wood was only there Friday, Saturday, but the other two were there Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
But as it happened, Sean Astin and Elijah Wood were there Saturday, Sunday, and Andy Serkis was only there on Sunday. So everybody was trying to grab the autographs when they could.
Right.
Yeah. So we get over there, and we got there. We had to get up at the crack of dawn. Now, what somebody asked if we dressed up. Now, I had a lot of costumes laying around for years. Sal had brought his Mighty Ducks jersey, right,
yep.
An authentic Mighty Ducks jersey, not just a T-shirt with a Mighty Ducks logo on it.
You lazy people.
That's right, lazy people. He decided to also do a tribute to is it Jack Hawk? No, not Jack Hawking.
No.
That's the voice of Dale Gribble.
Right.
Dale Gribble is unless you've been under a rock, he's a hilarious character from King of the Hill. So you did a tribute with the hat and the glasses,
right,
with your Mighty Ducks jersey
and my dark blue denim jeans and my tan boots.
Your tan boots, right?
So I was just missing the shirt, but
it was also good because people were coming up to you, excited to see Mighty Ducks represented, right. So it was a twofer. It was a win.
A twofer right there.
Yeah.
And we ran into another Dale Gribble.
Yes, I have a picture of it right here. Let's pull that up. So there is you.
There's me
with the other Dale Gribble, Dana Gribble.
Dana Gribble. Well, technically, she's Dale Gribble. I'm Rusty Shackelford.
Right. You're incognito as a hockey fan.
Right.
Try to get. But that was really cool that we spotted her. That was great. And you have to get there if you're not staying at the hotel. You have to get there really, really early in the morning so that you can guarantee yourself a convenient parking space.
Or any parking space.
Yes, preferably inside a secure garage where, the heat or ne'er-do-wells.
Right.
Yeah. So we got there about 8 a.m. And the moment we walked in, the first thing we saw was Count Dooku and an excellent, excellent stormtrooper. This guy was accurate in every way possible. It looked like he stepped out of the 1977 film. I mean, you can tell just by the way it looks.
We came up the escalator, and first we saw Dooku, and I thought Dooku was spot on, like as spot on as you can be without physically altering your face. And he was bang on the money. And then when you pointed out the stormtrooper came around kind of behind us almost. And when you pointed him out, it looked like it looked real. Because sometimes you see them and they seem kind of chintzy, like armors are flapping around,
or the proportions of the head are off, the helmet.
No, I was like, holy crumb. And that set a real high bar for the rest of the day.
Oh, totally.
And there were several who did not meet that bar.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, Keith. At DragonCon, as long as it's if it's an obvious fantasy weapon, the only thing they worry about is checking the trigger. Once they've checked your trigger, you're good to go, and that's the only thing you got to worry about with a fantasy weapon. If it's more realistic, better to just orange tip it, or in my case, I didn't have to carry anything because, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I am just I'm getting the carbonation.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm getting the vapors.
So yeah, we Drew asks, how did it compare to the old days of DragonCon? Haven't been since 2016. Well, it actually was pretty similar this year as far as where the crowds were congregating, because I was telling Sal before we got there, I said, when everything starts getting real active around 10, 11 o'clock, I said, all these hotels are going to be packed and everything like that. But because of the way they've limited attendance each day, and just the way it kind of fell out, even though Sunday has its own energy to it because it's the last full day and night.
Right.
It seems like the old days again, as far as everybody's congregating in the Marriott again. The Hyatt and the Hilton are basically spillover at this point. That because a few years ago it was the Hyatt and the Hilton were becoming their own crazy. You know, in 2019, the Hilton was just it was a dance rave like at the Hilton. It was amazing. But yeah, it seemed a little old school this year as far as crowd migration.
Right.
But as far as costuming goes, I felt like, and again, I didn't see everything on Saturday, but I've seen photos that people posted from Saturday. And while there are still highly detailed costumes and people putting a lot of work into what they're walking around in, it seems like the properties and the franchises that are popular with teens and 20-somethings right now aren't lending themselves to shock and awe levels of costuming. Like, here's a prime example. So this was definitely the early 2000s. It might have been 07, 08, something like that. Whenever BioShock came out, whatever that was. Yeah.
Like the Big Daddies walking around.
The Big Daddy. Yeah. I mean, they had the Big Daddy walking around, and then they had a costumer who was both the handler and the girl with the syringe.
Little sister,
little sister. They were in scale to one another. Like, it was incredible. You go look it up, you can still find that was just one example of like 25 encounters that you would have at DragonCon.
Right.
Whereas now, I'm not saying the costumes aren't good. There's some very good costumes that I can show you.
Yeah, there were plenty that were impressive.
Yeah.
But when I say that costumes didn't live up, this is what I'm meaning is like there were some like I don't know who that is or even if that's good, but it looks lazy.
Yeah.
So like there were a lot of Wednesdays walking around which were just girls wearing black dresses.
Right. Kind of like the year I told you about where it was just guys in blazers and bow ties wearing fezzes.
Right.
And it was like, okay, everybody's doing Matt Smith. Okay, fine. You know, I get
Did they shave their eyebrows off at least?
No. That would have been funny if somebody had been brave enough to do so. But yeah, so like the costumes were good. So like, for example, just to give you an idea, here are some Mario Karters. They were cute. Here's one that I thought was really good. It was a Street Fighter duo that I thought they did an amazing job. You know, he even did the hair straight up and all that stuff. And then this next photo I'm going to show you, my frame rate on my phone on my camera doesn't capture it, but you need to visualize the light circle as a full circle. Right. Don't visualize the gaps in it. You got to visualize the whole thing because it was actually refreshing faster than your eye can see. This amazing Doctor Strange, he had the mystic effects going on coming out of his hand. He did a really, really good job with it. This Link from Breath of the Wild had this actual LED moon that would turn white and then red. Yep. He looked great. And I appreciated some of the other stuff like this labyrinth. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's practically film. I mean, it is film accurate. Like, and last but not least, you know, I appreciated the accuracy from some of the more obscure yet understated costumes, like the movie version of League of Their Own. I always love seeing these women when they're here. There's always a group of women who come as the League of Their Own team. But yeah, I thought the costuming, like you said, it was all very high quality. There just wasn't anything where suddenly you were going like this, going, holy crap. Like there was no holy crap moment. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody out there, but you know.
There was no, there didn't appear to be any like undertaking on a scale that was like, wow, like this took since the last year to put together. Right. Like as someone who does costuming, but I tend to do easier characters just because that's where I gravitate towards. And I openly admit I don't have the talent and the wherewithal to be like, because I would love to do a Big Daddy, but I'm like, I don't know where to do that or how to start. It'd end up looking like a trash can. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't even try, which I feel like might be the milieu of my generation and younger. Like, I think we talked about it. I think they fear failing or they want to do something but do it right. And then if someone shows up and they do it and do it better, they're like, they feel deflated. Like, I did a costume of Booker DeWitt, speaking of Bioshock, back in 2014, something like that, at Boston Comic Con. And I dressed as Booker DeWitt. It was mostly like a found object because he wears mostly just normal clothes from that time era. I mean, I had to make the holster for the gun or the thing on the all that. And I had other Booker DeWitts walking up to me telling me how much better mine was than theirs. And mine really wasn't that great, but theirs were just worse. Like one guy had like blue jeans on and like, so it's, I don't know if it's a matter of maybe money and time investment that people don't have, or maybe they just want to dress up to be part of the tribe, but don't have the, like,
I've never been somebody who knows how to fabricate and vacuum form and all that kind of stuff either. I've always done what they call face characters, meaning you have to use your own face and just like get clothing made or, you know, leather work or whatever.
Right.
I've never done anything that involves armor. I've never done anything that involves trying to become a robot or a creature or anything like that. I just don't have that kind of lane.
It's like I feel like I could probably construct something, but it's a matter of it being wearable and movable. Like, like could I build an Optimus Prime? Probably out of like cardboard, but would it be able to move? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know why everybody's asking me about this gadget car, but okay, yes, it's the Inspector Gadget car, and the carded figure behind Inspector Gadget is Dr. Claus. He's mint on card.
Mint on card.
So yeah, yes. So yes to both questions.
Now you can stop asking.
There was a question here. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, people dress up like dragons at DragonCon, but there were also all those parades this year.
Yeah, and so speaking of dragons, there were one of the laziest costumes, I think. Now, there were some custom ones, like clearly custom ones, but the inflatable T-Rex. I'm so tired of that costume. Like, it's not just a con thing. It's like it shows up all over my feeds all the time. Like, people picking up their kids from the school bus wearing the dinosaur costume, like it's old hat. But then there were some, like there was one that was the texture color of that carpet that you were telling me about. Like, there were some custom ones. I'm like, okay, at least you did something different. But that was one of them. There was just a parade of dinosaurs around, and they weren't like official parades. They're like basically pseudo conga lines. But we had the Deadpools around the escalators, which had some Spider-Man thrown into it because morph suits, I guess. We had the dinosaurs. We had Kylo Ren as the undercover boss thing from SNL. There was like a group of them trying to do it. We had the escalator folks.
The people who were just ironically obsessed with the escalator, and they had like arrows going up and down on their hats, and they just kept whooping and hollering about being on escalators because there are a lot of escalators at the Marriott. And so some people become meta about DragonCon, and they decide, I'm going to costume as something with the carpet pattern, or I'm going to costume as something about the escalators. DragonCon as an annual experience has gone beyond pop culture franchises. It's its own monster.
Oh, and the Mandalorians. There was an army of Mandalorians walking around, and then they just started walking all together.
And they weren't all Jin Jajarin or whatever his name is. They were all different. What's that?
Gungadin.
They were, they were all unique, but all Mandalorians. They were all custom Mandalorians, and they were everywhere this year, everywhere. Melinda asks what the best costume we saw was this year.
I really think the Stormtrooper for me takes it, but we did see a Henry Jones that was really, really good. Seated, weirdly, just but he was really good. Oh, and we saw the little Korok girl. That was cute.
Yes, the little Korok girl from Breath of the Wild. And I also saw while we were at the bar at High Velocity, I saw outside I saw very one I don't see very often. I saw Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters, which I was like, whoa, I don't see that very often. Usually you see Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. You don't see a lot of the other fighting games. You know? So that was cool.
For context for people, for the Korok thing, there was a little girl, like what, 6, 7, something like that. And she or her mom, I imagine her mom, had brought a series of rocks, and they would make rings throughout the hotel to set up the rocks. And they'd set one rock off to the side, and then she'd go hide somewhere. And when someone would kind of walk and just like move the rock back, she'd like hop up and go, ha ha, and like hand them like a Hershey kiss or something.
Right.
Which is adorable.
Yeah.
So I was like that was like a ray of sunshine amongst the degeneracy and sin that I saw. Like, a lot of the stuff I saw was not safe to talk about on YouTube.
No, it was a record year for derrieres just being out of dresses, like not even accidental dresses riding up. Like there was no rear end built into these dresses, and they were just walking around with their rear ends hanging out.
One of we saw Red Sonja, and I applaud the devotion to the costume and the commitment that this individual had.
Yep.
They did not particularly have the body for Red Sonja, which again is, mystical, fantastical proportions. But we had the, I don't know if we'd call it the honor, unfortunate circumstance of being behind this person while we were traversing between hotels.
Right. So
we got a, Link wasn't the only one that had a full moon that evening.
That's right.
So
that's right.
And it's burned up there. It's there forever now.
Yes, it turns into a van. That's the whole point of it being they're fixated on this car.
Well, good thing we're traded in for a Maserati tomorrow.
I know, right? So. God, yes, it turns into the van. Let's see. Just Jeff. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, is that the Silverhawks to your left? Or hey, is that the gadget car? I'm done now. More RC. Yeah, for real. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's see. World Made of Cardboard says, I love the inflatable T-Rex. Better special effects than the latest Jurassic Park movie.
I have not seen it. Pretty much, if I'm on the fence about a movie, I'll wait until Mahler talks about it or someone else talks about it. And I'm like, it's to a point now where there are movies out there that people are like, oh, well, I broke down and watched it anyway. I'm like, I would rather watch the 5-hour movie of Mahler talking about it than waste 90 minutes watching the real one.
Right. Laser Pants has a question for you.
Were there? Oh, there were some.
There were some.
I won't lie to you.
Yeah.
There were some. There were some that made me go, yeah, Georgia does have peaches. There were some, but there were some who like, I'll have no ass.
Right.
And so when I say, and so when I say this, know that it's coming from a place of I can relate. There were some that had no business wearing what they wore.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you took a Nerf football and you split it down the middle and did that, like that's me, just the tiny little Nerf ball. But some of them were they were working with what they had, and God bless them.
Keith Knight, thank you for the 10 quid super chat. He says, I won first prize at a Halloween costume party once. Problem was I only walked into the pub to use the toilets. Bastards. Hello, chaps, by the way. Hello, Keith. It's good to see you, sir. Keith. I've been following your adventures in Playmobil on your personal feed with great interest as always. You do some amazing custom work, man. Now, so people have been asking in the chat, so Sal went with his Mighty Ducks jersey and the Dale Gribble tribute. I wasn't sure what I was going to wear at first. And then a few days before Sal was set to arrive, I said, I need to order. I finally came up with my idea. Now, there's no alcohol in this.
I promise.
There was a rule that I determined years ago when I was doing DragonCon year after year, and I realized that there were two characters that, while I liked them a lot, it was no fun to actually do them at DragonCon because there were so many people who were able to just kind of low rent those costumes and just jump in there and say they wore something to DragonCon. And so even though you do all this work and put all this work into it to make it the best possible outfit you can, most people, they kind of, you end up being white noise, right? So those two characters happen to be, and I learned this the hard way, Mal Reynolds from Firefly and Indiana Jones. Now, therefore, I haven't done those characters since 2009, pretty
Mhm.
much, or maybe 10. Something. I definitely haven't done Indy
Mhm.
since 2004. All right.
Right.
I haven't done Mal Reynolds since about 9 or 10, something like
Mhm.
that. So a long time for both. But I said to myself, well, we're just going to hang out, have a good time. We're not going to like try to set the world on fire, impress
Right.
anybody. We're there to observe everybody else
Mhm.
setting our world on fire.
Right.
We're going to see if they can wow us, right?
Mhm.
So I thought I want to wear something comfortable. I want to wear something that is already it isn't a big
Right.
deal. And I said, you know what? Over the years, I've gotten better hats, better shirts, better belts, better whips, better this. I'm just going to do Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Cairo. Don't have to wear
A big jacket.
a
or
hot
anything.
jacket.
Right.
I'll just go, but I'll have fun with it like I do with Bespin Luke.
Mhm.
Every time I do Bespin Luke or did when I would go, I would always have Yoda on the backpack with me just for fun.
Mhm.
I did it Kenner style, where I had the jacket on, but I had Yoda on my back. That was kind of the way I did it. And I said, okay. I said, I'm going to need a plush companion. I'm going to need like a plushy friend.
Mhm.
So I found this capuchin monkey on Amazon, and I said, if I add a red vest to him with some gold trim. So what I ended up doing was, with the help from Melinda, it showed up the day Sal showed up, as a matter of fact.
Coincidence?
And Melinda helped me put together this capuchin to wear, the bad dates monkey.
Mhm.
And Sal was kind enough to, periodically check him to make sure he was staying in place the whole day. And he I think he did really well.
Yeah, he did.
By and large. Yeah.
He got more fanfare than either of us did.
Oh yeah. And I told Sal at the time, I remember telling you at the time, I said plush accessory character creatures
Right.
are always like this kind of they kick down barriers to have people talk to you and stuff like that. And it really worked out. World Made of Cardboard, no apologies necessary. You don't have to say that is not necessary, sir. You feel free to ask for a refund on that if you want. You know me, I'm kind of, curmudgeon-y and grumpy and sarcastic, and that's just the way I am. But no, it's really not a problem. And then Jeremy, thanks for the super chat. He says, I don't watch any film that doesn't have a Mr. Plinkett review. Oh,
that's a narrow margin, sir.
That explains a lot. Kidding, Jeremy. You watched Dragonheart. That hasn't had a Plinkett review. I'm just saying. I feel like I've missed a. Did I miss the? No, I got the $10 one. Okay, so we went there with the monkey in tow, and we had a great time. And then let's see, we did the vendor hall, and the vendor hall was kind of crowded, but we were able to get through it pretty quickly because we had a mission. You were looking for
an Urukai sword.
An Urukai sword.
Yep.
And you found it.
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was looking pretty bleak there.
Yes.
For a while. Unfortunately,
we've already mailed it.
Yeah.
So
well, there's that. But unfortunately for Lord of the Rings, despite it being the superior fantasy film, newer things have come out, like The Witcher, or I saw a lot of God of War axes. There's a lot of Master Swords, but none of them were like game specific. They were like just generic, looking. Mostly wall hangers for everything, but because there's such a large gap between Lord of the Rings and today, and other fantasy things have come out, like there, you would find like you wouldn't find the shards of Narsil, but you would find Narsil complete, or reassembled, or reforged, I should say. Or I think there were like a couple elven swords, but like that was it for the most part.
Yep.
And then there was like one guy who was like, I think I got one in the back, and he didn't sound like that, but. Yeah, luckily hopefully it makes it through the mail. I mean, my state is a little persnickety about things like that.
Right.
So we'll see. But if not, then I'm just have to fight the mailman. That's fine.
Well, if not, then it just ends up back on my doorstep.
Right. And then we just play this game of cat and mouse back and forth.
and then I hop in the Jeep and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So So we did that. That took about what? Hour and a half?
I mean, it took us a while to get in the building.
Right.
Because we got there at 8. Like, it was a ghost town.
Right.
You were like, it's gonna pick up, and I was like, what? There's gonna be 5 more people? Like, and by one, sardines.
Right.
But we were like, okay, well, the vendor hall doesn't open till 10, which was in another hotel. Sorry, but your princess is another castle. And we're like, okay, it's like 10, and we'd met up with Kyle, and he was like, yeah, it should be good by now. It lapped the building, but it was moving at a click. It wasn't people standing waiting. It was actually like people funneling in because all you had to do was show your badge. It wasn't like, oh, go buy a ticket and go do this and go do that. Which getting our passes was lickety split.
Oh, it's easy. It was easy. Yeah, they've made that really user friendly.
Yeah.
So Turtle Tank 82, I'm just going to answer this. I have a video called 2 frequently asked questions with the answers for those so that people don't have to ask them all the time. So if you just look up RetroBlasting 2 TOO frequently asked questions, you will find that video and it will give you your answer. Or Timothy Ward will post it in the thing. Thank you, Timothy.
He's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, for real. So after we got out of the vendor hall, we got some lunch. No, what? Is that right?
Yes. After the vendor hall, we went and got lunch, which there were some nice costumes waiting in line for the vendors. There was one Harley Quinn was like, listen, I'm gonna say something. People, you can get mad at me if you want. I'm a larger individual. If you couldn't tell, let me move the microphone if you can't see it.
Right.
That's not my joke. I took that from someone. I call them Fat Harley Quinns. And it's like a mental drinking game. So because there are always people who don't play to their body type, which not fat shaming, but like I'm not going to be He-Man anytime soon.
Right.
But it's like they wear the spandex and it's super tight and almost X-ray at that point. But there was one who was the Arkham City, Arkham City Harley Quinn, and was bang on. I mean, she didn't do the hair, but the costume was bang on. She was with not a Deadpool. She was with Red Hood.
Oh, Red Hood. That's right.
But he didn't have his helmet on.
Right.
Then we saw a couple Lauras.
Yep. We saw a couple Lara Crofts. That's the other thing you got to remember about the line to the vendor area. It was around the America Mart in Atlanta twice.
And then through the parking garage. And it kept like hairpinning on it. Yeah, snaking on itself. These hairpin turns. That was an interesting experience, standing in that line. I've stood in a lot of lines at DragonCon, but that one, I'm not used to that kind of line for the vendor area. I'm really not, especially given the vendor hall size. Right.
So it was fun to go back and forth. You started to get to not know them, but you started to get to familiar with different faces in line because you were going like this over and over again. And so we saw this one nice couple. She was classic Lara Croft, and he was Wolverine from one of the X-Men films. They were really nice. There were some other people there. There was the accordion busker on the street that started playing Indiana Jones.
Right.
As we went by, it was fun. Impossible Pie wants to know if there was a common female cosplayer like Slave Leia, for example.
There was not a single Slave Leia that I saw.
Nope, I didn't see one.
I was expecting them to just like after 8 p.m. I expected it to be like a party popper and they just everywhere.
Right.
But no, not a single one.
No. I actually saw more Attack of the Clones Padmes than I did. Yeah.
That was weird. I saw one, and then I think I saw a total of like 3 or 4, which is 3 or 4 more than I thought I'd ever see.
Yeah. I did see an Endor Leia in the commando outfit.
The head thing.
Yeah, but I never saw one Empire Strikes Back character at all.
I think that's because of the heat.
And also, we were only there one day, so it's
very
possible we missed them on other days. So
that's true.
But as far as we're talking about experiencing it on Sunday, so we never saw Empire Strikes Back characters. We never saw really. There was more prequel representation there overall.
Yeah, well, I think the prequels now are what Star Wars, what Star Wars was to you all like 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Because it's all people my age who grew up on the prequels are now like, they're not that bad. Give them a chance, which it would be interesting to see in 15 years from now how the others are.
Yeah.
Which I don't. It's no secret. No, there's no love lost with the sequels here.
Right.
But there was one dude who pulled off a very convincing Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Like he had genetics mostly, but had the same face structure.
Yeah.
He was really short,
but he looked like Adam Driver.
Yeah, and he pulled it off. He looked great.
And then I did see one Rise of Skywalker Rey.
Yeah,
I saw one of those, which was weird because I'm actually used to at DragonCon seeing more Force Awakens versions of Rey. And I don't mean just the one that you see in the poster. I mean, I'm used to seeing the end Rey where she holds up the lightsaber to Luke with that outfit too. I never see Last Jedi Rey's, even though that's the best outfit and hairstyle she ever had.
Right.
I've never seen any of those, but I didn't see any Force Awakens characters other than Kylo Ren who could have been from any of the films.
Right.
And then I saw the Rise of Skywalker Rey. Yeah. Yep. The other things that I saw were a lot of anime, like things some I recognized, some I didn't. I saw a lot of Last Airbender.
Yeah, there were a lot of Aangs and I can't remember their names now, but there were a lot of those, and I'm wondering because it's getting a new live action adaptation on Netflix, so I'm wondering if maybe that's why it's popular for costumers now or something. But yeah, it's Prince Zuko. That's when I saw a woman doing Prince Zuko, which she looked great. Like the costume looked great, but he has like birthmarks, and she didn't do any of that. But the costume was bang on.
Sure.
So, but it wasn't like bang on to point. Like the colors, the patterns, all that was correct, but it was very vibrant and not being muted. It looked. I prefer if you're gonna costume as a cartoon character, I prefer it to be more like this is what they would look like in real life, kind of thing. Yeah, where it was very cartoon colors. Yeah. So if you're gonna do that, you need to do the makeup on your face to do like the shadow and the angles to make you look like a cartoon. Like there was another Count Dooku who did the Clone Wars version where he had like plastic things on his face for the beard and all that. So, but he didn't. You could tell what it was.
Sure. So yeah, and I also saw, we saw a smattering of superheroes. There were Batmen walking around. There were Batgirls walking around. I saw a few Black Canaries. Yep. I saw Superman here and there, but I didn't get a close look at them. Spider-Man. Yep. Of course, the parade of Deadpools. Correct. Yeah, there was a lot of that. There always is. And then there was a lot of House of the Dragon. Yep. I saw a few Lord of the Rings things. I actually saw a Strider Ranger Aragorn, and he was with somebody who was a woman who was doing. It was an odd pairing. I don't think she was doing Arwen. I think she was doing like. Was it Eowyn?
Eowyn,
she might have been doing
from Rohan.
Yeah, she might have been doing Eowyn. Yep. But it was a really good Strider. Like it was a really good. He had the long. Right.
Did you have the misfortune of seeing the sexy Gollum?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yep, that's a thing now.
Yeah. Some young woman wearing a like Party City like silicone Gollum mask and underwear.
Yeah.
It was running around the convention and she had like a rope. She had a rope tied around her neck, like Sam and Frodo when they're, it burns us. It's the elven rope. But the person that was with her was like a female Gandalf and something else.
I saw more than a few gender swapped Gandalfs this year in varying configurations, and it was very strange.
None of them compelling. Most of them look like they'd taken a sheet like this and just cut a hole in it and made that their robe. Like it was very low rent Gandalfs.
Yep. Snell's World, thank you for the super chat. He says, wife got her Goonies poster signed by Sean Astin.
Good.
So tell everybody about the autograph experience.
About this?
Yes, about that.
Yeah. So we went on Sunday, like we mentioned, and the three people were very hard to find. I'll hold this up for my face because it looks better. Actually, over here because I don't want to put it off camera too badly. So Sean Astin, Elijah Wood, Andy Serkis. We had gone to eat and went to the vendor hall and all that, not knowing like there's a schedule to anything because we just didn't look because we like everything fly by the seat of our pants. And we go to the Walk of Fame, okay, where all the celebrities are. And we walk in, there's no line to get into that, thank God. But there's a booth that has like names. It's like prepay here because they don't let you pay at tables. You have to pay in advance and get tickets for it, which on one hand, I guess it guarantees you a signature,
Right.
but on the other hand, it's like, can't I just get in line because I'm wasting time being in this line? But so I walk up, I'm like, I'd like to get an autograph from Elijah Wood and an autograph from Sam. And the woman's, or I'm not Sam, Sean.
Right.
And she's like, oh, we're not selling Sean anymore. We only have Elijah and he's not here yet, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, if I get in his line anyway, can I just get an autograph? And she was like heming and hawing about it. And I was like, I need to know because the 8x10s, I didn't bring anything to be autographed.
Right.
I flew here and the Urukai sword, I was like, I didn't want to be like, you know whose autograph it is? Randy Jackson. Like, I didn't want them to sign that.
Right.
Even, I mean, it could have been cool, but
right.
Anyway, I was like, okay, because they had Elijah Wood single, Sean Astin single, no Andy Serkis, but they had the trio. And I was like, well, if I can't get Sean Astin, that's going to dictate which 8x10 I pick.
Yeah.
And because they had Frodo and Gollum by themselves, or Sean Astin and Gollum by themselves. And I'm like, and then as I'm standing there kind of going back and forth with this lady, like, if he's still here, why can't I get a ticket kind of thing? And his handler comes walking up and she's like, hey, Sean Astin, this is like, it's like 1:45. She's like, Sean Astin has a hard 2:00 stop, but his line's down. We can probably take about 10 more people. And I was like, take my money.
Right, right.
Do it. And so she's like, I could feel like I felt a sense of relief. Like, yes, I want this 8x10 with these three on it then. But I could feel for her, it was kind of a
right.
And it was like, lady, like, you're getting paid.
Sure.
So I get my tickets for Elijah and Sean. So I get in Sean's line, and it's a very quick whirlwind because he has a hard stop at 2 because he has to do a photo op and he has to do panels after that, and then he's done for the day. And so I get a very quick like, oh, hey, how you are? Thanks. All right, buddy. Thank you. And I'm like, okay, he's leaving soon. Whatever. I get it. And I immediately get in Elijah's line, and I'm standing there. He's not there. He's coming back from a photo op or a panel rather. And so we're waiting. And then there's a lady in line. I guess you can buy your autographs early. I'm going to set this down. I'm tired of holding it.
I'll hold it. I'll hold it for you.
Thank you, Vanna.
Sure.
And so you can buy your autographs ahead of time online, I guess. And that's what this lady did. But like the QR code wasn't working and they were saying that, it's not valid, blah, blah, blah. So she held up the line for like 10 minutes, which I'm like, okay, whatever, not a big deal. She goes away, comes back, it's working. And it turns into a whirlwind, just signing and leaving. Excuse me. So I get my autograph. Don't get to say much because his handlers, hey, like saying it to us, but I think talking to Elijah, but he can't tell a celebrity what to do.
Right.
He's like, hey, you guys, pointed at us, like, you guys need to hurry up because we have a hard stop here in about 5 minutes. He has to go to a panel. And I'm
like you were doing anything to hold him up.
Right. But I think he was telling reminding Elijah that he has a panel, but was telling us that it's like our fault because, whatever. So I got Elijah's autograph. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we were in and out like, 25 minutes for two of them. And now we had to go looking for Andy Serkis because his thing wasn't on the list. And it's this big room, but it's like a funnel. Like once you start going clockwise, your only option is to exit when you get to the other end.
Yeah.
And so Michael was going to go looking, but he would have been funneled out and didn't want to, lose sight of me because someone might kidnap me. And so we funnel around. We see other celebrities like George Takei and Ryan Hurst was there. He plays Opie in Sons of Anarchy and Fat Thor and God of War Ragnarok for those playing along at home. But no Andy Serkis anywhere. And so we're asking her, like, hey, where's Andy Serkis? Like, oh, he's downstairs, which, okay, that's where Paul Bettany and Andy Serkis were. And that was the start of the nightmare.
Yep.
So we get down there, we get in line, and the lady at, like, the door is like, oh, you need to go over there to get your ticket for this. And we're like, oh, okay, whatever. So, but it's a photo op center. So I go over there, and I'm standing in a line. Unknowingly, there's two ladies up there. And I'm like, why is this taking so long? Like, why is no one in front of this lady? Not knowing one was a cash line, one was a credit card line.
Right.
There was no demarcation for that. And so I get up there, and the guy in front of me is kind of talking about like, hey, like he has this thing at like 3 or 3:30, something like that. He's like, we may not even make it over there. And I'm like, well, if they sell us a ticket, we have to get it. Like, at least in my brain, that's how that would work for a normal person. So I get up there. And she's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I want an autograph for Andy Serkis. And she's like, okay. So I hand her cash. She's like, oh, I'm credit only. The lady next to me was cash only. She's on her break. I was like, that would have been nice to know yesterday. So I've stood in that line for like 25 minutes for no reason. I get checked out eventually after her system crashes and she has to reboot her computer and everything. But it goes through. I get my ticket. I run over to where Michael's at, and he's like, "Oh, the line's already moving." So like, cool. So I go in there. I get stopped again by the same lady who's like, "It's too crowded in here. You're gonna have to wait out here." And I'm like, "This is a full empty room. What are you talking about?"
Right.
And then volunteers doing volunteer things. And so finally, like, she's like, "Okay, you can go to the left. You have to go left." I'm like, I wasn't planning on cutting the line, but sure, I'll go left. So I go left thinking maybe his table's over there. It's some dude and he has like an Excel spreadsheet open, and he has like this old like Excel spreadsheet looking notepad or graph paper, I guess. And he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here for an autograph." And he's like, "Oh, that'll be what the total was." I was like, "No, I've already paid." And he was like, looks at me kind of funny, and I'm like, "Yeah, here's my receipts." And it's like a printed off QR code. He's like, "You're supposed to pay for those over here." And I was like, lady at the door told me I had to pay like across the hall. And he was like, "No, that's not." I'm like, "Well, I already paid for it." And he's like, "All right." So he like scans the QR code, it comes up denied. And I'm like, "Of course it does." And it's just like insult to injury kind of thing. Like, I've got 2 out of the 3. Watch this be the third. Watch this be the one that I can't get.
Right. And
so he has me move over to the side. And I pull up my bank account and show him like DragonCon total. Like I just paid for it. And he was like, okay. And he like scans it again. And it's approved. He's like, "All right, go ahead and get in line." And I'm thinking I'm in this room like I'm, I don't know, 2/3 of the way in this line. And it's moving along decently. It's not bad. It's, step, wait a few minutes, step, wait a few minutes, like any other line. Because I have to explain how those work to people. And then I think I'm in the home stretch, but we hard stop, and they're like, "Hey, he has to go to a photo op. He'll be back soon, blah, blah, blah. For people who paid for the photo op with Andy Serkis, please leave the line. Make sure the people behind you keep your space." I'm like, that's Bush League.
Right.
But if she was on the other foot, I would want that too.
Sure.
So they leave, and we're like, all right. And about 40 minutes goes by, and Michael's like, "Hey, where are you at?" And I'm like, apparently he left for like a photo op thing. I'm still in line, yada, yada. And then where the handler people comes back, like, "Hey, make sure those people have a space when they come back. They're starting to come back." We're like, okay, cool. So the line's going to start moving soon, like, whatever. And people start coming back, and then Andy Serkis doesn't.
Right.
He just disappeared out into the ether somewhere.
As they do.
Yep. And so another hour goes by, and I just hear these thunderous applause. I'm like, oh, he's back finally. But it was during that wait I found out, because I had like one little little dog leg, and then I was going to be in this room, and like, oh no, it continues to snake into the next room. And I was like, It was a fun time. I think it was a 3-hour wait total to get his autograph. But once I dog-legged into that door, I saw he was sitting there. He was actually talking to everybody, like asking, like, "How have you been? Like, how's the con going?" Like, I was like, I can't be super mad at him, because he's actually doing the thing and conversing with the people.
Right.
But at the same time, I was like, it's been 3 hours, homie. I'm ready. Like, the guy in front of me was like, "You got to ask him anything?" I was like, 3 hours ago, yes, I would have. Now I just want nicotine. Right. And he's like, "Oh, I hear you, brother." He wasn't Hulk Hogan, but that's fair. In my head. But Andy Serkis was a very, very nice gentleman, very kind. He was happy to see everybody. He's one of those celebrities that goes to a convention and he knows where his bread's buttered. Right. So it's because some of these people, they do something like, I don't know, like a Lord of the Rings or whatever. It's the only thing they've done of import in the last 20 years. They're almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Not regretful, but they're almost like angry about it. Yeah. And it's like, it's not my fault. Like, not my fault. I didn't do nothing. But yeah, he was a very, very kind man. Not that Elijah and Sean they were just under a time crunch. But Elijah was very, very, very nice guy. He was happy to, like, people paid for selfies with me. He was happy to take them and stuff. So they're all very nice people. Just didn't get much interaction with them, unfortunately. Right. So,
But you got them.
but I got them. I got all 3 of them.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I was outside the whole time
Helping.
and waiting. I was helping not only Sal, I was helping other people because I wasn't in line, but they were having problems with the ticketing process.
Yep.
So I was holding their places in line when they would have to run off and figure it out and then come back.
Because that's what heroes do.
That's what heroes do. In the process of waiting out there for the approximate 3 hours or whatever it was, I ended up seeing 2 basically naked women walk by.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. I ran into this awesome couple who she had to have been, I don't know, that I was encouraged because it looked like she was somebody who she might have even been like 18, 20, 21. It was hard to say because she was tiny, but she was dressed head to toe in the Harrison Ford costume from the map room of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's got the whole
getup.
Yeah, the getup, like the Sala getup on. She had everything completely correct in the details and quality. She had a Magnolia shoulder bag on. She had the proper buckle on the bag strap. She had the whole headdress. She even gave herself 3-day beard with makeup. She had the Staff of Ra with the headpiece on it. She had the proper khakis on underneath with the shoes.
And not the Hasbro headpiece.
It was awesome. And I was just standing there leaning up against a wall waiting because the line had finally started moving. So I was able to, the circus had finally come back. So I'm sitting there up against the wall, just kind of, hanging out.
Right.
Me and the capuchin, just hanging out. And it was at that time that I saw the Labyrinth couple. I got that photo that I showed you earlier. This photo right here of how did I do that? Oh no,
it's broken. I gotta go back.
So the Labyrinth couple, right, where did they go? Here. So that basically, if I was turning to the right to take that photo, if I turned 180 degrees, I would be facing the room where Sal was inside and had been for 3 hours, and I thought, is he still alive?
Yeah, I saw a lot of what humanity had to offer in that room.
Yeah. Would you like to regale them with a story?
Sure. So, which one do you think would be best, the cheese stick guy or the cottage cheese thighs?
First of all, I want to know what this means, Chris. We've been showing pictures all night. What are you talking about?
I might be a latecomer.
Well, also, a lot of people think that when you're standing there in a costume and someone's getting a picture of you, that somehow you just magically have that photograph. And it's like, no, they're taking a photograph of you and then they're running off on their next adventure.
Right.
You don't have a photograph. So like, I'm telling you this stuff and you're asking me where are the pictures, like what, I'm lying? Like, just settle in, my friend.
Right.
Anyway, so keep talking.
Right. Now, I'm less of a photo taker and more of a photo receiver, I guess.
Right.
Like anytime I've costumed, I don't stop and take pictures of people.
Right.
And even when we were there, I took maybe 1 or 2, but for the most part, I was like, I just want to be in the moment and absorb all of this.
Right.
But so we had during the 45-minute to an hour, or it was almost 2 hours of that 3 hours was stuck in one spot.
Right.
During that time, there was a very rotund Raven from Teen Titans there, who decided to sit down while we were waiting, which, no harm, no foul. But wearing a leotard with no tights, you should probably sit side saddle.
Right.
So that was something burned into it's in the memory banks forever. I won't be able to get rid of it. Bleach in the eyes. But the thing was, she decided to pick at the zits along her leotard line.
Oh.
So that's also burned into my memory. I witnessed a grown, more rotund man than myself, probably 2 of me, eat himself into an early grave. A lot of cheese and a lot of beef sticks.
Right.
So, but my thing for him was at some point he pulled out this giant binder or whatever, and it was just fat stacks of autographs from that weekend, and all of them were not to anybody. And I was like, oh, he's one of those that gets these and then sells them on eBay or whatever.
Right.
So, but again, I'm a harsh judge of humanity. Looking as I look, it makes me feel better about myself. But yeah, so we got him. Michael waited out there for 3 hours, which I felt horrible for.
No, it was fine because, like I said, when that young woman ran up to me in that full Raiders of the Lost Ark map room outfit, which you talk about like a deeper cut, you know,
right? That's a real specific look.
Yeah, and she was so exuberant about. I'm not kidding, guys. She had to. I wouldn't have been surprised if she was 25 years younger than me. Like, but knowing that she was into a movie that old,
and
like
that intensely,
yeah. and when she saw me, she ran up and she said, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see you. Can I get your picture?" And I thought at first, I was like, I've seen 20 Indiana Joneses around here. This thing, but not tooting my own horn, but my outfit is finally, after 25 years of dedication, it is Cairo accurate from head to toe. Like, it is Raiders of the Lost Ark accurate. And I had the monkey and everything. And she said, "Oh my God, you got the monkey." And then she said this, and I think that's when I understood why her exuberance was there, despite having seen 20 other indies. She said, "I'm just so excited because you and I are from the same movie." Like, and she knew that I was Raiders and she was Raiders. And that just made her day. And while you were in prison in the room, there were all these people kind of, coming in and out and going up the escalator and stuff. And one of them was this guy who was in a full sort of Indiana Jones outfit. Like, it looked like there was a lot of nice stuff on it or whatever. He clearly didn't just throw it together. Right. But he had a full ponytail coming out of the back of his head, so you're kind of sitting.
He kind of just like put that up into his hat.
Yeah, like it was like, so I'm not saying that he did anything wrong in doing that. You costume the way you want to enjoy it. What I'm saying is, it made me start to understand that despite my misgivings over the years about doing indie because of things like that and the number of people that do, I realized that people like this young woman who could pick out the quality of the and then that was very like galvanizing. It was like, oh, there are still actual fans of this franchise that see through the other stuff and they know exactly what they're looking at when they see it. That was really, really cool. So then the other thing that happened to me outside was, I talked to the Marriott hotel staff for a little while. They were very nice. And then this person dressed as House of Dragons came by. She was the green dress with the red hair.
I haven't seen House of Dragons.
Yeah, me neither. And she got all excited. I was just leaning up against the wall, just waiting. And she was like, "Oh my God, I wish I had my Marion costume with me." And I said, "That'd be awesome." She said, "Will you be here next year?" And I'm like, sure. So that was, then you finally came out and we headed up for, where did we go after that?
I think we just kind of traversed around, tranched through the pumpkin patch, so to speak. And I know we definitely went back to the central hub you could show me, like, here's all of this. I ended up seeing the naked lady. Yep. I thought Michael was pulling my leg when he told me about it, and then nope, there she was, in all of her skinny glory. Yep. And I don't mean skinny like skinny. I mean like just skin, acreage of skin. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even know if you can be in public like that legally.
That's what I thought. I was like, what?
There was maybe 3 to 4 cubic inches total left to the imagination. Everything else was for everyone's enjoyment. And I was like, you know what? I salute the commitment. I salute the confidence. I could never do that. Right. But, you do you. I did expect to see like at OnlyFans on her back or something, but nothing.
Yeah. I think after that, it wasn't long. We tried to go to the different hotels and see where the crowds were milling around. And we determined that everything was back in the Marriott this year. So we went back to the Marriott and went to the High Velocity Bar. And we sat down and Sal got me having a drink with the monkey. So that's me having my Jameson with my capuchin monkey, a la Cairo, and
he ended up being a pretty bad date.
He was a bad date, yeah, that's for sure. But we were sitting there doing that, and Wilhelm, she was some kind of nun thing, like some dirty nun.
So the chick that was with, because there was two of them, the one in the green, I saw her solo later, and she was for those that watched Metalocalypse, she was Roxo, the rock and roll clown.
Right.
So I recognized the character. The nun, she had like not a habit, but she had like a hat thing on, and that was it. Like the only thing I know for sure I don't know what looks like on her is her calves, because she was wearing boots. Like that's pretty much it. Like everything else was like
out there.
Yeah. Like she had tassels on and like painted on underwear. Like it was nothing to the imagination pretty much.
Paul, thank you for the super chat. Okay, so I'm going to answer this super chat because it's a super chat, but at the same time, I'm going to give you two answers, okay? These are Dawson Jones retail fixtures display cases from Norcross, Georgia, but I need you to take note of this. There is a video that I have done on RetroBlasting called 2 TOO Frequently Asked Questions, where you can get answers to all of these types of questions that have been asked a million times. So please go check out that video. It will answer a lot of things for you. I appreciate the super chat, and I hope that information is helpful to you.
I would say it's a toss-up between her and the Red Sonja on who was the most egregious. I think she takes it, because at least Red Sonja had the bikini on.
Right.
And the other one was more pleasant to look at. I won't lie about that. But those were the most extreme ones. But I've been told before there are people who come out completely.
Oh yeah, I saw a guy. Yeah, I saw a guy in 2009. I know it's like I saw a guy in 2009 at 11 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday at DragonCon walk by completely naked except for like a robin mask over his eyes and a solo cup tied on a string around his unmentionables.
Good Lord.
Otherwise, he was completely naked. And I don't know how he got away with that. I don't know how,
because the police don't want to arrest a naked guy.
Yeah.
But then after that, we wandered around. We went to the bar. We had I'm an adult. Okay, I am of drinking age, despite my youthful, glowing appearance.
Right.
I'm 34. So with that, I had a Shirley Temple. Ryan will appreciate that if he's still listening. I had a Shirley Temple. You had your Jameson. We took the pictures. We had some fun conversation with the bartender Ashley. And then after that, we kind of trounced around again, looked around at various places. We stopped to get a water and a Powerade before or after?
That was before. Yeah.
Right.
Because we went into the Hilton after that, and that was when we were looking down, or maybe right before that, we were looking down on the atrium, and we spotted the Dale Gribble.
Right. Spotted the Dale Gribble. Yep. Spotted another Raven cosplayer who was just crying into her Wheaties over something. Yeah. When I see things, I always because it's like, oh, like she was just kind of rubbing her face. I'm like, oh, maybe contacts, but no, she was like crying. I always want to be like, I can sit here and make up what's wrong, but I kind of want to know what's wrong because I'm nosy.
Yeah.
We ran into them, and that whole thing was decked out in Mario for some reason. A bunch of Mario stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
And then after that, we did the bar thing. After the bar thing, we walked around some more, and we went to the Hyatt. Was the next one?
The Hyatt was. Well, we kind of went back between the hotels like at least twice. I remember.
Yeah, we did a circuit just to see what we could see.
Right. But right after we did that, we did one more round. That's right, because we stopped in the Hyatt, and that's when it was like almost it was like 9 o'clock.
The whole day.
Dude, set us up for this.
All right. So for those that have been to a convention with Michael, he's somewhat of a celebrity.
Oh no, I'm not.
Listen, people don't recognize me for nothing. Like you even like there were people who were like, I'm a big fan. I've watched all your videos, blah blah, blah. And like, oh, and this is Sal, and I'm like, and they're like, yeah, cool. And I'm like, I mean, not that I'm famous, but it's like through osmosis that my name should be familiar to some people, especially if they've watched every video.
Right,
it's
right.
Like, you have that. That'd be like them being like, oh, this is Tony. They'd be like, oh, okay. Not to compare myself to Tony, but it's like if you've watched everything, you should be familiar with like I would say there's probably 8, 9 names you should know.
Yeah.
Like you could be like, this is Timothy Ward, and they'd be like, oh, Timothy Ward,
Right.
Who's never actually been on the channel, I don't think. No, he was R5.
He was on. I think he was on a few live streams. Yeah.
Anyway, so the whole day, people are stopping you like, oh, the monkey, and Indiana Jones. Whole day, not a peep, not a murmur, not nothing.
Which I'm totally fine with because the whole point was you and I hanging out, having a nice time,
right?
Just relaxing as much as you can at DragonCon,
right?
And just doing stuff,
right?
Yeah.
And which conversely, if you've been to Joe Fest when Michael's there, it's like 2 feet, Michael French, and you're just like, it's like he's a human and he wants to do his thing too, like. Please, 5 feet back. No autographs.
I paid my entry fee so I can stand in the first 15 feet
in the atrium
for 7 hours. Yeah.
And it's always positive attention though, which is good. But in the last hour, in the witching hour that we were there, which I mean, there was like 2 hours left, but we kind of left early. You got shanghaied by like 5 or 6 people in a row. Just boom, boom, boom.
And when the crowds were at their tightest and the most numerous. And people were flying by each other, so you would think that the likelihood would be less.
Right.
But no, it just blew up.
Yep. And let's see. So I don't remember that I went outside to go smoke, and when I came back, because I'd kind of left you in the lobby, like, all right, cool, I'll be here, no problem. Yep. And so and I don't go out for 40 minutes, where I go out for like 5 at the most.
Right.
I come back and I'm like. Well, I'm doing the meerkat thing, like trying to look for Michael, and I just kind of pan over, and I see what caught my eye was a Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is what caught my eye because bright yellow wings and all that, and it was actually really good.
Yeah.
And then I see you just kind of off in the cuff talking to these 3 guys. I see like a Ghostbuster and there's 2 normal dudes.
Right.
I'm like, oh, there's Michael, and I come in and I'm standing there like just a fly on the wall, like.
Yeah.
I'm with a celebrity.
Oh God, no! But they were really nice people. There was nothing wrong with them. It was just the weird timing of it, where it was like, I was really thinking that because DragonCon is so many people, and also I had that hat on all day.
Right.
Like it was. that hat never left my head all day. Nope. Like it was on the whole time. It was very. It was the first time I'd ever had an Indiana Jones hat. Like I've had a lot of Indiana Jones hats, but this is the first time. Not only was it totally accurate, but it was also supremely comfortable. Like I never had to adjust it. I never wanted to take it off.
Didn't make your forehead itch.
Didn't make my forehead itch. Nothing. Great hat. So anyway, I thought that I was pretty innocuous, which I was totally fine with.
Right.
And then suddenly, this very nice guy named Billy came up, and he was shocked that I was even there. And then
was he the one that asked you for the autograph?
Yeah. Which was funny. Somebody was saying earlier, they were like, Michael should get a booth at DragonCon because people would pay for his autograph. I would never charge for my autograph. I think that's ridiculous. I'm not a celebrity. If somebody wants my autograph or my signature, whatever it is, like as long as it's not on a contract, then happy.
That's the trick. Always sign someone else's name on the contract. That's not legally binding.
That's right. And then I got to meet BJ Savage.
Yeah, BJ Savage.
He's been in the live chat for years, and I got to meet him.
Fantastic costume. I was judgy. I was doing my thing. I was pretending to look at my phone. I was checking for the P tube, and he had it. Yep. Because we saw a lot of Ghostbusters who didn't have the P tube.
That's right.
So, and I was like, I don't know about the rest of it. I know that little detail, and he had it. So
yeah, it has to be there.
Yeah, and I liked he had his own name on it. He wasn't like, oh, I'm Vinkman or I'm he actually had his name on it.
Yep, 100%.
So,
let's see. Somebody says. Would Michael get a booth at Joe Fest? No, I wouldn't, because there's no point in having a booth when you're also looking around, collecting.
Right.
Here's the thing. Sal will tell you, there were booths there, and this is not a brag. All right. This is just the reality. All right. there were booths there for social media personalities and certain artists and things that weren't getting the swarm that I was getting just standing somewhere.
Right.
And again, that's not a humble brag. Like
it's an objective fact.
That's just it. They were taking bets this past year on how my friends who were there were taking bets on how far I would get after the next conversation was over.
Like because I went to Joe Fest with Michael 2021, I think. And I fully anticipated like a repeat of that because we tried to walk the floor once and you just kept getting stuck like every 20 feet. So we were myself, Kyle, Melinda, we're all joking like we were like hedging our bets like, what do you think it's gonna be like every 5 feet or 20 steps or and then just nothing. It was like they took all of it and just crammed it in that one last hour, which I didn't really talk to Billy and the other gentleman, but BJ Savage was very nice. I had a fun time interacting with him. Yeah, I was able to take a photo of the two of you and all that.
Yeah, they were all real nice people, and you know that was the other thing too. Like that, while we were standing there talking to them, suddenly this group of ladies came up to us, and one of them was the House of the Dragon lady.
Right.
But she had switched out to another costume, or maybe she was just in street.
It was a cheerleader.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it was. I don't know. Like I know I recognize it, but I don't know what from.
Right.
So I was gonna say Yellow Jackets, but that's a soccer team.
Right. And she, she was like, and I was like, oh, were you in the green dress down in the, when I was waiting on Sal? She's like, yes. And so she was, just telling me, she was like, I hope I didn't, come off too crazy like when I saw you, but I'm just a big Raiders of the Lost Ark fan. And I'm like, no, not at all. I get it. And then we saw this lady a few minutes later who was walking around the elevators there at the Hyatt, and she was Marion from Cairo, and she was by herself. And I was like, is that a lone Marion from Cairo? And you guys were like, yeah, I think so. And I ran over there and talked to her. She was like, she had a stuffed monkey, but she knew she had the Staffara headpiece on the right necklace. And she had the stuffed monkey. She started asking me, she said, where did you get that monkey looks more correct. I said capuchin, look up capuchin. She's like, oh, that's the term I need. So it was a good time overall. And we had a really great time. Jeremy Kerr, thank you for the super chat. He says, I took my wife to a Walking Dead con a couple of years ago. She had the time of her life, but making it happen was the most stressful time in my life. Yeah, it can be stressful. It really can be.
Yeah.
I feel like I missed a... Oh my God. Hold on. Let me find Laser Pants's super chat. I don't know why maybe it's down here somewhere.
Yeah, and you would think that like the star ones would. There it is.
Michael, what's it like being a famous celebrity such as I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a guy in the toy aisle who also has to sweat in the queue with everybody else. And
the people recognize you from the good that you do. They recognize me from wanted posters, like
milk carton.
Yeah. That's how I ended up where I'm at. No one recognized me.
Oh,
that band was a dark time in my life.
God. Keith Holmesley apparently said something. He made a funny. Oh, Michael should sign stuff like "Get bent F off." Do you even collect, bro? Eat it, slacker. Oh man,
that's what I said. Like, because people were genuinely being nice and like coming up to you and all that, and you can be like, you could just be mean.
I could.
Or
being
mean's my favorite pastime. I'll do it for you.
Right.
But
Analog Toys, thank you for the kind super chat. He says the queue to chat to Michael at Joe Fest was the second longest queue at the show after the Valaverse booth.
Yes.
Yeah. You might not be wrong, Tony. I mean, you were right there, so I trust your assessment. I couldn't see the forest for the trees, so I was actually stunned. I thought,
right. Well, there was a line to chat to you when the three gentlemen were there. Mr. Savage was just kind of standing off in the cuff, like waiting for the other two to leave because one of the woman had walked up to him. I'm assuming his wife or girlfriend,
right,
had come up to him and was like, oh, hold on, I want to meet him. And I was just like, is there a line forming for Michael? And I was just kind of standing behind him. I'm like, am I in line to meet Michael? Like,
that was the funny part when I was waiting for you in the circus. It's not circus. It was a circus.
It was
the circus.
Yeah.
When I was waiting for you, this guy he walked up after I'd taken the picture of the labyrinth couple, and he said, are you on YouTube? And I'm just like sitting there, leaning up, my monkey on my shoulder.
Right.
I'm like, yeah. And he said, I thought it was you. And then you and I were walking through between the Marriott and the Hilton. And that one guy he literally did like a drive-by where he stopped and he was like, did you do a video about putting together the ultimate Indiana Jones action figure? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, I thought that was you. Great to meet you. Great job. And I'm like, he's like, I love your videos. And he ran off and I'm like, how are people this late in the day?
He legitimately said thank you for that because I guess like he wanted it. He must have done it.
Maybe. So. Yeah. It was cool. It was cool.
I mean, you got recognized a second chance.
Yeah. Well, but tell that story.
Okay.
This is good. This one. Right. So okay.
This gentleman, he was very kind. He was very nice. Like, just a little misplaced. We go in a second chance to just kind of peruse, like, because people know I'm not collecting, but I still like to look at the things. Like, I can still appreciate, like, oh wow, I haven't seen that, And we make it 2 steps in, and this guy, I won't name his name. He had a nameplate on, but I won't name his name. Stops Michael and just talks his ear off. Like I do a full circuit twice.
I felt so bad.
Chance. And then he finally, like, as I'm kind of walking up, just kind of like, waiting for Michael because Michael hasn't even had a chance to look yet. He's talking about how into Motu he is and blah blah blah. And then he's mentioned something about Michael having the Boba set, and I was like, oh god, there's gonna be blood. And so he eventually takes his leave and all that, and I'm like, Michael, I think he confused you for somebody else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he thought that I was Toy Galaxy. Yeah, he thought I was Dan Larson, which has happened before.
Right.
It seems like apparently most people just see a white guy with brown hair
and they think assume
same dude.
Yep.
Which again, like, I don't mind in one sense. In the other sense, I do mind it when people can't pick up on details. Like, that annoys me.
Right.
So
yeah. But for me, it's like I would say geography should be a thing, but here I am in Georgia right now, and typically I live in New England. That's where Dan Larson lives. But it's like you would think, like, if he watches such a big fan, he'd know, like, oh, Georgia, Michael, or what is Dan Larson, who lives in Massachusetts, doing in Georgia? Right. Which, I mean, DragonCon, sure, but we're far enough removed from DragonCon where I don't think you'd just casually run into someone at a toy store.
Right. Exactly. And as Laserpants said, what Tony just said isn't hyperbole. Yeah. About the line. King Eric says, "Can I get a signed headshot of my?" Oh my God, I would never do that. Yeah. Like, it's so pretentious. By the way, did you ever find the World War II map? Yeah, I did. It's safe. I haven't opened it yet, but I figured out what happened. We were cleaning out for like a get together, and so it got moved before it got. But I've got it. I found it the other day. Let's see. Timothy Ward, thank you for the super chat. He says, where can I get glass cabinets like yours so I can try to find an Inspector Gadget car? Oh, thank you for making me laugh, sir. Very kind. Keith Knight.
The internet.
Thank you for the kind super chat. He says, I dressed up as Conan the Barbarian and stood in front of my wife and said, what would you like to do with this body? She replied, identify it. Bah.
God. That people think they say that I'm funny. I think Keith Knight takes the cake, honestly.
Keith Knight is a trip.
Yeah.
Michael, when are you going to review vintage train sets? Hey, are you the guy who did the Tubbs video?
Oh, they're pouring in now.
Yeah. Boba set. Blah, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, it was. Wait a minute. You are not Dan Larson?
Yeah. No. Now, to Michael's credit, he heard that and just let it roll off.
I did. I just was like, at that point, I kind of figured. I didn't totally figure it out until I talked to you.
Right.
But I was like, wait, I don't think he knows who I am.
Right.
Like.
But it's one of those where the conversation had gone on for so long. It's like, do you be like, that's not me, or do you just kind of like, you know what, let him. He's having a moment. This guy's just let him.
Right.
It's like. there were two actors in Lord of the Rings that were similar looking. They just signed for each other because they get confused with each other all the time. It was probably Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
or they'd bring up like, oh, like they bring Pippin to Merry, like, oh, can you autograph? And they'd be like, sure.
even though you're looking at both of them going, they don't look the same,
Right. Well,
you know.
To the untrained eye, they're hobbits. They're both blonde.
Oh, well,
Like-
that's weak sauce for them, is what that is.
I mean, it's weak sauce saying that you look like Dan Larson.
Well, right, especially given that a lot of the time, as like with some of the people we ran into at DragonCon, they would say, "Are you local? Are you around here? Like, do you?" With this guy, he never asked like, "Oh, I didn't know you were local here. Or what are you doing?" Which would imply like, "Oh, because he lives elsewhere," you know, like.
Or conversely, he knew who you were and just confused Dan Larson with you.
Yes,
which is also it's possible.
Yeah. Let's see. What is, it says? How can you possibly confuse Michael with Dan Larson? And then KBA says, the trick is that Michael wears Kylie shirts. That is true.
Yes.
Snell's World, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I always try to take a photo while getting the autograph. Up next, Chattanooga Comic-Con. Oh.
Yeah, it's one of those where like they charge, a lot of places charge for the photograph or the selfie.
Right.
And I would like to take a photo, at least like, because I don't sell, I know that people can't read about it. I always get my autographs personalized because they're for me. I'm not going to resell these things.
Right.
But there's always that person who's like, oh, you didn't meet them. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't pay the $80 to have it authenticated.
Right.
Like that's a scam.
Right. Brian, we're not saying anything's wrong with Dan Larson. We're just saying that a lot of people confuse me for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're saying.
So if you're referring to my there's going to be blood comment, it happens frequently.
Right.
So it's like one of those like, oh God, here we go kind of things.
Bad movies. Wait, this hasn't been a Toy Galaxy stream?
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, I thought I was watching Toy Galaxy and Artemis Prime.
Yeah, I can see the confusion. No, the monkey and they share a resemblance.
Oh man. Yeah, so it was a good time though overall. It was a good I gotta show Dan Larson's indie costume will be made up of pics from Wikipedia. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. So I've considered doing things similar to that in my real life, where like for a time I didn't have room for a Christmas tree.
Right.
So I would just tape up a Polaroid of a Christmas tree on the wall.
Right.
Like, and so I'd consider doing like costumes like that, like just get someone's really good cosplay and put that on a shirt and be like the same.
Right.
Like,
that would be really funny. Oh man, that could become a trend.
Yeah, I think it could be like get, I don't know, cosplayers like permission to like, hey, can I sell your shirts or sell shirts with you on it with this caption, like, and get like a kickback. They're like, oh, like someone would think it's funny, someone would probably be like, no, but I don't have to ask permission. They don't own the character.
Right. Someone's saying Michael doesn't have a Southern accent like Jeff Foxworthy. Did someone say I have a Southern accent?
No, it's because you're from Georgia.
Oh,
or you live in Georgia. So I can answer that. So I am also from the South.
Right.
I, unlike Michael, who has a more legitimate reason, I try very, very hard to hide mine. So much so that I don't have to think about it to use it, but like when I go home, it comes out. But it's not my fault. Society looks at Southern accents as being unintelligent. So I've worked really, really hard to cover mine up. Where you, in your formative years, were not in country.
Yeah, it just got beaten out of me.
Right. You went somewhere else and you had more than one dialect to grow up around. So when you came back, it was gone. Like it's Patreon, I think.
Yeah.
So if you watch the Patreon, you pay some money. There are videos of Michael as a child. Like there's one with the go-kart and he has a very thick Tennessee accent.
Yep.
And now it's gone.
It's just gone. Yeah.
So
I wake up in the morning and it's just flat and just kind of whatever, Yes, TJC. The UK trip is still on for next year. We're going to start planning it here real soon. Melinda and I, we know we have to do that, which is scaring the crap out of me because I've got to finish that Robin Hood script, which I haven't been able to do because I've had to keep the channel alive by continuing to make other videos with other scripts. Yep. So
Brian Dillingham, I thought you were Tony Roberts for the longest time.
I can see the confusion. They're both very handsome people.
Oh man. Well, can't be from the South if you don't look like Colonel Sanders. Oh man. All right. Southern plus British balances out to a net zero. Yes, it does.
Believe it or not, listening to not speech pathologists, I guess, they discovered that actually the Southern drawl is the most native accent to America because it's only a skip, hop, and jump to the British accent.
Right.
Because there's a lot of vowel similarities, a lot of umlauts that stay, or not umlauts, diphthongs that stay the same. So it's a very close relative.
Right.
And they say that it was around like the 1800s, the aristocracy started to change the way they spoke to differentiate themselves from the lower class. And that's how England kind of adopted that whole accent. And so it did change where the American South is the closest to what the accent would have sounded like.
Oh, see, that's hilarious because think about that. In order to be historically accurate to films that are set in a pre-America England, they'd have to sound like this.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a little more buttery, but like there were. It's just funny because you know it's like soccer versus football, things like that.
I just want to see a King Henry VIII movie where he's like, off with her head.
Bring me a bud.
I want to marry someone else. Yeah. We got to get rid of this Catholic Church.
I've run out of sisters. Where's the next one?
Buy a French swordsman for Anne Boleyn, because even though I'm divorcing her and murdering her, I want it to be done high class.
Yeah. I want to see heads roll.
I'm the good old boy.
That's right.
King of England. Well, everybody, it is an hour 40 in, and we typically end on an hour 30. So any parting thoughts about DragonCon as a first timer?
I had a great time. It is the largest convention I've ever been to by a mile. Like I've never been, I can't say never, but there was one convention that had a second floor, but it wasn't a real second floor. It was just like you go up and there was like, here's a couple rooms. That was it. So everything else has been on one floor. Like DragonCon was there. That's where the auditorium thing was, but that was it. So that was technically a second floor. But I'm sorry, Joe Fest, not DragonCon. What did I say? Anyway, so this one was multiple buildings, multiple floors, and it was an experience, and it so much so that I want to come back next year. It was a lot of fun. I have, maybe if I can get the time off, I'm going to Rhode Island Comic Con in November. I'll see how that works. They were like, I went to an anime convention a few weeks back, which wasn't great.
A dirt convention. I've been to those.
Right. Well, I mean, there were people there were vendors there, all that. It's just it wasn't really my milieu.
Right.
I went for other reasons, and it was fine. But it was all very sardines packed in, and the people who worked that event were working at Rhode Island Comic Con. They're like, oh well, you should come back next year. We have like 3 floors of this building, and I was like, oh wow, 3 floors. And then I came here, and I'm like, 3 floors, huh? Let me tell you, I'm a veteran now.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great time. I don't know if I could do 5 days of it though.
I couldn't do 5. See, when we first started going, it wasn't 5 days. It was, well, okay. When we were going, Thursday was the dead setup day.
Right.
Monday morning, it was already dead. In other words,
right.
I've been there at the con, staying at the hotel, and on Monday morning when we all get up and we're down there, and by 10 or 11 a.m. it's still like, it's only the people who just don't want it to end, but everybody else is gone. So it was really only Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the longest time, and now it's suddenly like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and most of Monday. Like it's with Wednesday now being the new Thursday, and that means there's already stuff going on Wednesday. This thing's going to be a full week before you know it. Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and also we left like an hour. I mean, technically everything closed at 10. Yeah. But I think the party just keeps going, because like the vendors, all that stuff closes, but the hotel's 24 hours. So, but we did hit traffic on the way back. We were like, it was like dead stop on the way back, and then by the time we got close enough to see what happened, we had to pass by an 18-wheeler that covered up the whole thing. So we will never know what happened.
I told you when it stopped, I said we will never know exactly what happened. It'll either be cleaned up or we won't be able to see it. And sure enough, it was like, dang it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted a rubberneck.
I want to see some blood.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, everybody, if you haven't been to DragonCon, it's a lot different from San Diego Comic-Con, which I've also attended. It's a place where you don't have to hang out in the street with your costumes. You can actually stay in relatively air-conditioned hotels because it's hard to air condition 80,000 people in one place.
Right.
But it is a more fan-run, less corporate convention that comes with its pros and cons. But I've been going with only a few off years since 2004 continuously, and only a few times have I not gone the full weekend. As you know, we used to present there. We didn't present there this year, but Melinda and I, we naturally stopped after the pandemic year because that was a virtual convention. We did a presentation for that. And then 2021, 22, it was just like, well, there's still like all these mask mandates and stuff. And we didn't want to just jump into that. So it was like, well, so we stayed at home. So this was my first time back, and we only went on Sunday, which I think was like a good toe in the water, Yep. So
also, if people are thinking about going, I would recommend it if you're an adult. But if you have a family and you have children, be out of there by 6.
Yeah.
Early morning time. Like, it seems like the con wakes up around 10 because that's when things open up.
Right.
But if you have a family with small children or teenagers or something that you don't want them to see things, leave by 6.
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, when we saw the one lady, like, sundown was when the stuff would come out.
Right.
Sun was bright and in the sky when that one showed up. So
yeah, which was weird because there used to be people who would police the costumes. They would say, please go up and change, or please do whatever. I saw it happen.
Yeah. It could be maybe she wore like a robe on her way in or something and then just.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's my 2 cents, if you will.
Well, that is one question that I know people asked at the beginning, but I just want to reiterate. Sal, ran 2 Cents Toys for quite a while, and now he's decided to just kind of like decompress from that for a little bit.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, for those of you who are wondering, Ancient Mysteries is not dead. We will be doing a new episode soon.
Right.
We've just separately been trying to get separate projects done. Sal's been doing projects with his toy collection, behind the scenes, and I've been working on these big videos. So, but the live stream series, Ancient Mysteries and also War Stories, will be coming back. So just be patient, stay tuned. They're coming. So, and with that, is there any goodbye you want to give for this one?
Well, I had a lot of fun, especially for our kind of impromptu live stream. It was going to be an Ancient Mysteries, but I slacked. I was like, hey.
No, you didn't.
I mean, I did, though. Like,
I clearly didn't do anything either.
Well,
we've both been kind of busy.
Yeah. Who talks first? You talk first? I talk first? It was, we've both been really busy. And the subject that we have picked out, which is Darren Kuyu, it's been about a month or so since I've read anything on it. So I was like, I'd be going in blind. And there's also been other underground cities that have been found since then. So kind of adds to the topic. Yep. But other than that, don't forget to spay and neuter your pets. And you stay classy, San Diego.
And I have had such a great time hanging out with Sal this week. I'm really glad that we have basically one more fullish day, not foolish, fullish day to hang out tomorrow. And then I'll be back on the editing thing, trying to get the Indiana Jones 5 review finished, the mega review. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. And we will see you on the next video. And with that, I will say goodnight to you all. Good night, everyone.